Alright guys, remember, this is going up on YouTube, so behave yourself in chat. Best behavior. Alright, we're starting off with... Jesus. Starting off with Axe of Fury. Where do we think Axe of Fury belongs, boys? Axe of Fury feels very meta-dependent to me. So if the meta is like Warrior and Knight, then Axe of Fury is really good. And if the meta is less of that, it's not as important. But it's always good in any melee build, I feel like. Assassins, Warriors, Knights, Martialists, Greater, Feathered, Beast. I think we'll start it off in A tier. I think it's fine. I think there's better stuff, but I think it's pretty good. We can adjust it later if need be. Orb of Refresh. What do we think about Orb of Refresh? Plus 200% mana, plus 200%, which is crazy good. That's like basically stacking four magic spars, right? Double ability cast. I throw this thing on like Razor Claw, Cave Prodigy, and then Dark Spirit's probably the best thing that it's on, or that it goes on. Well, obviously it's really good on Fallen Witcher. Just because of that, I think it deserves to be an A, right? Just because of the Fallen Witcher interaction. We're gonna find that in the epic and legendary tiers, like everything's gonna be S or A basically. Alright, Eternity. Where do we put Eternity? B. Oh, wow, this is funny. We're getting a lot of B's. That's surprising. That was not my first that was not my expectation. You guys realize this blocks the penguin hex, right? Yeah. I feel like people are underestimating how good this is. To me, this is S tier, and it's not even a question. I feel like you guys are gaslighting me here. All right, we can argue about it a little bit later. Let's get through the rest of these. Grace of Drassy. So this is very similar to the item Gifted Holy Grail, right? Where it's recovering 500 HP for it, but not instead of just one other unit. Like this one only recovers for one other unit, one other ally. This recovers for all allies within 234 yards. So that's all allies within 2 spaces away from the unit carrying this. Plus it increases the carrier's healing effect. C or D, C or D, C or D. Alright, we'll start off Grace in C tier, but we might move it down to D tier. Alright, Storm Guide. Gains 40 mana at the beginning of the battle, so that's equivalent to what this does. Mana Crystal, gaining 40 at the beginning of the battle. But then it has the unique passive. The carrier instantly releases clouds to an area with the most enemies, silences the enemies within 234 yards, and reduces their magic resistance by 30% for 30 seconds. So you combine this with something like Thunder Spirit or Tortola, and it helps you wipe out an area. Plus it's really good against builds that like clump all their units together that have a lot of abilities that you're trying to silence. It's basically like having a 2-star Storm Shaman, right? But as an item rather than having to waste a unit on the board. I think we could start it off in B. That seems to be what everyone's saying. Yeah, I mean, it specifically works well in mages. I guess it kind of can be okay in like some divinity builds that use magic damage. Like Divinity Warlock, but that's not really popular at the moment. Fearless Gauntlets. Unique passive, the carrier gains 1 stack of effect every 3 seconds. Their armor goes up by 2. Their magic resistance goes up by 5%. stacks up to 8 times. So you're looking at 16 armor or 40% magic resistance. And the damage plus 20% after reaching the maximum stacks. So if you want that plus 20% attack damage, you have to get to 8 stacks, which means you have to last, your unit has to last for 21 seconds. It means the rounds have to be going to the end, or long, like 1v1 battles, for this to get like full value. You guys think this is worse than Grace? Like, are you guys picking Grace over Fearless Gauntlet? Because I'm not. I do feel like this is like one of the worst options. So I feel like maybe we move Grace down to D and put this in C. Put them both in D. All right, we can do that for now. Maybe we'll move it up here in a minute. Yeah, it's good on stuff like Lancer or like a Shadow Crawler. Anytime you or like an Avenged Knight, anything that's gonna like survive to the 1v1 fight at the end of the round, it can have some usefulness. Especially if you're playing, like, let's say you're playing against a Divinity Warlock, or you're playing against a tanky mage build, like mage shamans. It can be good. Alright, Monkey King King. Monkey King Kane, plus 40% attack speed, which is huge. But also the unique passive of guaranteed hit, and additionally deals 70 fixed physical damage. I mean, I think this is A tier in a build in a meta with no feathered in it. Right? Imagine if the meta had a lot of feathered in it, then it would be S tier for sure. But because the meta doesn't have a ton of feathered right now, we don't consider it S tier. But I think it's it has S tier properties. It basically prevents feathered from ever being too good. They would have to like nerf its guaranteed hit rate down to like 80% or 70% or something. Yeah, I kind of do feel like it should be S tier, but I mean, it's better than Axe the Fury, right? If you don't put this in S, I'm coming to your room. This is like the last item on the list of S tier items, probably, or it's the best A tier item. It's like right in that middle between being, and it's just because of the meta, just because the meta doesn't have a lot of feathered. But I mean, this item counters this item, Shadowblade, and it also counters the Dazzling Crown, and it also counters the Spirit Talisman. All these items that give you evasion, this counters that. So, all right, next item, Shadowblade. Shadowblade evasion 40%, attack speed 20. If Monkey King Kane did not exist in the game, then Shadowblade would be almost S tier. But because Monkey King Kane exists, this loses a lot of its 40% evasion value. But if you pick this and you know your opponent doesn't have Monkey King Kane, then this goes up. C or D. Wow, you guys really hate this item. I definitely would pick it over Glove, yeah. Alright, we'll start it off in C, I guess. Let's see how the other items shake out. Maybe we'll move it. Alright, Necro. Unique passive, 60% chance to have the summoned +1. So 60% chance you summon a second bear when playing Razor Claw, a second unit when playing Cave Prodigy. 2 extra units when playing Whisper Seer. But it also gives you the Egrsis Archer and the Egrsis Swordman every 30 seconds. And the star level of the Archer and the Swordman is based off the star level of the unit you put this on. So it's best on a 3-star Whisper Seer or a 3-star Razor Claw, or get those 3-star Egrsis units. Trash tier dumb summon units. I mean, this, keep in mind, guys, they had to nerf the crap out of this item because it was so broken before. It used to be 100% chance to summon +1, so they nerfed it to 60. It used to be a legendary item, right? At 100%, and they dropped it to epic at 60%. The randomness kind of annoys me. There's already enough randomness in this game, but without adding it onto the items, but it's legit in empty spots 40% of the time. But it still summons the Aggressus units, which have some value. Those 3-star archer and 3-star swordman aren't awful. They do some damage. The Aggressus units are trash. Honestly, I don't really... I guess I would have to like look at the stats at each star level of the Aggressus units to have a full gauge on how strong they are. I don't have those numbers anywhere. I'd have to do some serious digging to find that. It's good for Bad Omen. Yeah, that's another thing it's good on is Bad Omen. This is Grace tier. Wow. You guys are haters. My first instinct was to put it into A. But you guys are really hating on it, so... Maybe we throw it into B. Maybe I'll compromise with you guys and throw it into B. Because to me, it's an A tier. It's like an instant grab anytime I play Beast or Insects or Cave Prodigy. I always just slam this bad boy. Maybe I'm just an idiot. I don't know. Maybe not S tier, but not lower than A tier. That's... Alright, so we're getting some fight for A. Why would you pick this over even the Blade and Beast? If I have a 3-star Razor Claw, let's say I have a 3-star Razor Claw and I don't have a good carry, I'm gonna take this. But if I have a 2-star Spacewalker, then yeah, I'm gonna take Shadow Blade rather than this. It really depends on what kind of carry I have, what my build is, what my units are. All right, let's just move on to the next one. We'll come back to it if we need to. Dawn Star Hammer, Pierce Immunity, A or S, best item in 1v1 after Immortal. It does something nothing else does. S or A for me. Can win you the game by itself. Yeah, I agree. It's very, very good. My problem is that I snap pick this too often when I should go for Monkey King Kang. So keep in mind, guys, even though Dawnstar Hammer is really good, you should try to scout the lobby and see if your opponent is rocking a Shadow Blade and a Dazzling Crown, even if they're not playing Feathered. You better pick Monkey King Kang first before you pick Dawnstar Hammer. But provided your opponent doesn't have a bunch of evasion, this is probably the best 1v1 melee item you can pick. So I definitely agree that it's A tier. But just keep in mind, don't just snap pick it without knowing whether or not your opponent has any evasion. It's against the law to put Necro in B tier. Yeah, I think by the end I'll put it back up into A tier. We'll see. Alright, Sorcerer's Chains. Magical damage plus 30%. Advanced Captivation spell, unique active, imprisons the enemy with the highest value and those within 200 yards. So 200 yards is not big of a range. It's hitting units right next to the unit that gets imprisoned and a couple fringed units that are 2 spots away from it. Mostly just the units right next to it. Imprisons them for 4 seconds. This actually got nerfed. It used to be 5 seconds. I think it was 4 and they buffed it to 5 and then put it back down to 4. I can't remember exactly. But yeah. What do we think of Sorcerer's Chain? God, I hate this item. This item is super annoying, dude. I've lost so many games when the item system first released. I lost so many games to this item because I didn't really understand how to counter it or play around it. It's the ultimate noob counter, exactly. So if you're below like Rook 5 and you play Sorcerer's Chain, you're gonna have a good time. But the higher rank you get, the more people understand how to counter this item or just position to play around it. By the way, guys, Sorcerer's Chain does not work against the Greater. So if you're facing the Greater and you're playing Mage, don't bother taking Sorcerer's Chain because it does not work. That's something important to remember. You are not positioning around this item, little bro. Sure you are. All you do is you put your carry in one spot and move everything else away from it. If you don't have an item to counter it. Let's say your carry is Shadow Crawler or Red Fox. You have that in the back corner and you move your other units away from it. Simple. Wait, can you repeat that again? This item does not work against the Greater. If you're playing if you're playing Mage Shaman and your opponent is playing the Greater, don't bother taking Sorcerer's Chain. It'll give you the magical damage. It'll give you the plus 30% magical damage, but it's not gonna. The spell's not gonna work against the Greater. This item is not that good. Everyone is glazing. I think it's like Krugenaut said, that it's the ultimate noob counter. If you're playing against someone who doesn't understand how to play around this or counter it with items, if you're playing against someone who's just spamming 600 and they have all their units clumped in the corner, then this is going to wreck them. So, I think it's right in line with Storm Guide. B tier. Are we okay with putting it in B tier? I can't believe I live in a year where someone has to explain that CC does not work on Greater. Listen, it took me a long time to figure this stuff out, okay? I know there's plenty of people out there watching who are having an aha moment as well, okay? We're not all born auto chess geniuses. Alright, next item. Exorcism Armor. Armor plus 6, magic resistance 30%. Unique passive, when the carrier is inflicted with negative effects, dispels all negative effects and becomes immune to negative effects in 3 seconds with a 15-second cooldown timer. Negative effects of items higher than this quality cannot be dispelled. So this will not dispel the hex of Scythe of Vice. It will, however, still give you the magic resistance, you know? So, while your opponent has Scythe and they have plus 60% magic damage, your Exorcism is still giving you the resistance here. But you're not dispelling the Penguin Hex with this. But you're dispelling literally everything else in the game. You're dispelling Sorcerer's Chains. You're dispelling Storm Guide. You're dispelling Kindness Pendant. You're dispelling Ice Plate Mail. All this shit. All this stuff. You're dispelling all this stuff. It dispels Storm Guide? Yes, it does. It does. It dispels Storm Guide and Chains. Bro, this is literally the most dumb item to ever exist. You're saying that because it's so strong, right? Alright, last epic. Crimson Heart. Plus 900 HP. Which is quite a bit. Plus, unique passive. Upon receiving base attacks, the carrier has a 50% chance, so every 2 attacks basically, on average, to deal 150 physical damage to enemies. So basically, it receives a base attack 50% of the time. All the enemies are 234 yards around it, so it's all the enemies within 2 spaces of it all the way around are taking 150 physical damage. And you're also recovering 150 HP. So this is really good on something tanky, like a Warpwood, or in 9 Warriors it can be quite good, or 6 Cave, or put this on Sandbound Aegis in like Divinity 6 Cave, quite good. And the cooldown timer is 1 second, guys. So it basically doesn't have a cooldown timer. It's just going off constantly. I think it's either the last item in A tier or the best item in B tier. In my mind. Last item in A tier? Alright. I'm here for it. Alright, how do we feel about this list, guys? What do we need to change here? What needs to be changed? Do we need to move Necro up to A tier? Do we need to move Storm Guide and Chains down to C tier? Mace needs to be up. The ordering on the tiers isn't really important, guys. Just think of all the units. They're all equally good. We need to fill up F tier. I don't think any of the items are F tier. Maybe Grace needs to be F tier. I can hear that. If we get some multiple votes to put Grace in F tier, I'll do it. Otherwise, I think this is having nothing in F tier is fine. Necro F tier. And you really don't like Necro. Shadow Blade's better than Gloves though, so Whatever Shadow Blade is, gloves has to be below it. Sort items from left to right. All right, we can do that. I'm down. So in S tier, we'll start with the top. S tier, what are we saying is the best item, guys? I think Exorcism Armor is the best, right? And then Monkey Cane's probably the second best, and Eternity is the third best? Or is Monkey Cane the third best? Sorting tier is crazy? Yeah. I mean, in my mind, we don't need to sort the items within the tier, but if it makes you guys happy, I'm down. That means in A tier, we should go Hammer as first, right? And then Axe of Fury probably third. Are we fine with this sorting in A tier, guys? Or is Refresher worse than Axe of Fury? I think Refresher's slightly better. Yeah, they're so different, it's hard to really compare them, right? It's really build dependent. I'm gonna put Necro as the best B tier. Against Silence wishes. Necro. And then we have to decide if we want Chains or Storm Guide as number 2 and 3. I think I like Chains as the second best. Personally. What do you guys, if you guys are offered Chains and Storm Guide, do you take Chains or Storm Guide? I always take Chains and Storm Guide second. And then we should switch gloves, and I think Grace should be the last item, right? Or it should even go to F tier. Why did they make the name Fearless Gauntlet, by the way? Why is it not gloves? They had this item in the game before and they called it something gloves, Kira gloves or something, right? So it's confusing that they do that stuff. Anyway. Alright. Are we happy, guys? Is this good enough? I think the only item we're in disagreement on is if Necro should be A tier, B tier, or F tier. We seem to have some varying opinions on that. This is solid, I think. Thank you guys for your help with the epic list. Appreciate it. Alright, this is our epic list that we made earlier in the stream. This is theirs. Very similar. They have Monkey King a little bit lower. They're just really valuing the armors, which I understand. Basically, their armors are SS tier, and then Monkey King is S tier for them. They do have Necro rated higher. But it's only... We have, like... Necro is our best B tier unit, so... They're basically just switching Necro and Crimson armor. Not a big deal. Crimson Heart. You can make an argument either way. They don't like Axe of Fury as much, but... the meta back then was a lot of 4 Witchers. Everyone was playing 4 Witcher back then. So you didn't need to play Axe of Fury. You didn't need pure damage. Now, and that was before Knights were like taking over the meta. Like right now, there's so many Knights in the meta that Axe of Fury has way more value right now than it did back then. And yeah, they agree that the 3 worst items are the gloves, the Shadow Blade, and the Grace. So I think our list is fine. Our list is more in line with the current meta, I think. So I think our list is solid. Hey guys, Will's here. Thank you so much for making it to this point in the video if you're still here. A couple housekeeping things. I'm not sure 100% if Kinpira's list that we're comparing is updated. When I go on their site, it says that they updated it April 2nd. So if that's the case, keep that in mind when I'm commenting stuff like their list is based on an old meta. Perhaps it's not. I just assumed that it was because they originally posted it, I think, in January, and then they have like a note that they updated it in April. So I guess you'd have to ask him to know for sure. But in any case, I don't think it's super important. It's just to help us judge our list based on someone else's opinion. Otherwise, another thing that we've been having some discussions with is the item Eternity here. I have marked that it's the only item that counters Scythe of Ice. We're having a discussion on the rare item tier list. If you haven't watched that video, definitely check it out. I'll link it above. It's also in the description. We're talking about whether or not the item Mithril Armor counters Scythe of Ice. So if you guys know for sure if it does or not, let me know, especially if you have like a video of it working. If not, I'll have to test it myself eventually to confirm whether it counters Scythe or not. So perhaps this note that I have on the final tier list here is incorrect, and Mithril Armor also counters Scythe of Ice Hex. That would be the only two ways to counter that item. So keep that in mind. That's part of what makes Eternity really valuable. Other than that, guys, I'd really appreciate if you guys can hit the like button, subscribe if you're not subscribed already. Both those things really help out my channel. I'm trying to get to 1,000 subs this month, so appreciate your support. Again, I want to thank Twitch chat for helping me build this tier list. This was a very combative discussion, similar to the rare item tier list discussion. So I should have the legendary tier list up in the next, hopefully later today. So be on the lookout for that. All the links to all the other tier lists will be in the description. Also, if you guys want to bookmark this image or any of the other tier list images, the link will be in the description. If you guys like this type of content, please let me know. Leave a comment about what you liked about it or what you don't like about it, or what other type of auto chess content you guys want to see from me. I definitely take all your guys' opinions into consideration, so I appreciate your guys' feedback. Thanks again for watching this one, guys, and I hope to see you guys in the next one. Peace.